If you're struggling and trying to figure out how to deploy your no-code solution to your team, look no further than this video. I'm going to be breaking down for you the steps of building any no-code solution, and we're really going to dive into my fourth step, which I think is really overlooked. It's all about deploying that solution to your team and getting adoption, because if nobody uses the thing you built, why did you build it in the first place? So if learning more about this solution is of interest to you, stick around and let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Gareth and this is Guidde Consulting. It's our mission to help you unlock the full potential of the no-code tools that you are using, and that means organizing and automating your workflows. A big part of this that we always overlook is how do we actually deploy these solutions? If we, the architects, build them, we know the ins and outs of them. But when we have to get other people in our organization to actually use the thing, that can be a little bit of pushback, especially if they're already married to other tools. They're not going to want to switch over and adopt the new tool. So how do you overcome this problem? That's exactly what we're breaking down. But before we get into it, I first want to invite you to join me for automation training. If you're new to no code or if you need a refresher on the basics, grab my free automation training. It's going to teach you how you can automate those processes that you do on the day-to-day basis on repeat. Automate them so that you don't have to waste your time doing them anymore. Grab the training at gapconsulting.io/webinar-registration. But without further ado, let's hop on into the 5 key steps for building any no-code solution. And the first one is often slept on too. It is number 1, mapping and planning the solution. It's so easy with no-code tools to just jump right in and start tinkering and start building. And I have a propensity to do that too. I've got that engineering mindset. But it's usually to our benefit to take a little bit of a pause, map out our process, really articulate to ourselves before we start building, what does this thing need to do? Even if that's just a short bullet point list of things, put it on paper, get it written down somewhere so that you know what you're building and you can turn around at the end of the build and say, I completed all the things I set out to do. Once you've mapped it out, now it's time for step 2 of any no-code solution, and that is building the darn thing. So now you have to roll up your sleeves and get to work. This usually is broken down into 3 main categories. When you build anything in no-code, you have the where does the data live that you have to answer. You have the how does the data move, the automations part. And then you have the third component, which is how are people going to actually interact with this? Because most of the time you don't want to share all of the data. So you'll build some sort of an interface to the information in the workflow that you can share with specific people. Now for part 3, it's time to test the solution. So you've already mapped it, you've already built it, and now you have to make sure it works. So take it out for a spin. Make sure, impersonate the different people on your team or the different people who are going to have access to this tool and test it out. Make sure the automations run as expected. This can take a little bit of time. It can take a lot of bit of time. It really depends on how much experience you have in building no-code tools, and with that, hand in hand, how much you've thought through the exceptions, because sometimes there will be things that you didn't consider, ways that people will interact with this new solution that you built that you didn't plan for, and so that's going to cause things to break. So as much as you can, test it out and lock down all those loose parts to make sure that they don't break when people are actually using the thing. Now that you've tested it out, it's time to take on step 4, and it's all about deploying that solution to the people who are going to use it. So once you're pushing it out there, now it's in people's hands. They're definitely going to break it if you haven't tested it already. They still might break it even if you have tested it. So it's time to deploy it. But what you're really looking for in this stage, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this, it's all about user adoption. If you're rolling this out to the people on your team and they're not actually using the thing, again, you've wasted your time to build it. What are you doing here? You really need to make sure that when you roll it out, you're getting feedback from the people who you've sent it out to, and they absolutely know how to do the things that you built the thing to take care of. So if they don't understand what this purpose is, why they have this tool, they're not going to use it. It's up to you to communicate that, and we're going to dive into in a little more detail why and how you can do that. Now, the 5th and final step before we dive any deeper into step 4 is all about supporting the solution. So here you are, you've built this amazing thing, you rolled it out to your team, people are going to break it, that's part of it. You have to make sure that you support it over time. So if something breaks, you got to get in there and fix it. If something changes in the organization, a procedure is now different, you have to update that. You have to make sure that you're constantly evolving that solution that you built and supporting the tool that you rolled out to your team. So those are my 5 key steps for building and rolling out any no-code solution. We have done this hundreds, if not thousands of times as an organization, and you got to follow those 5 steps if you want to have a successful deployment. But that is not the sole purpose of today's video. We also need to dive into this step number 4. How do we roll this thing out and make sure that people are actually adopting it? And it all comes down to a key thing that I heard a keynote speaker say once. Here I am on this speaker's webpage. Her name is Bonnie Christine. I've never had the pleasure of meeting her, but I watched her speech that she did at Craft and Commerce a year ago, and it was pretty groundbreaking. I mean, she didn't talk about anything that was revolutionary, but she boiled things down in such a simple way and helped frame the success of her business that we can all replicate in our own businesses. The thing that she said that stuck with me the most is if anybody in her organization has to do something more than twice, now it's time to create an SOP for that, or a standard operating procedure. And this makes a ton of sense. We need to build businesses that are easily replicated, where we can hand work from one person to the other. And if one person is out sick or on vacation, there is a well-documented process so that we can easily say, hey, we still need this thing to get done. It's not going to wait 2 weeks for, Mary Sue to get back from vacation. We need to address this now. Where's the SOP for it? How would Mary Sue have done this part of her job? It's all documented in an organized business. And what are we doing in no code if not organizing our businesses? So this is definitely a key component of number 4, deploying the solution. And when you roll out your solution, when you've built your no-code tool, if you want to get user adoption, you need to have a way to communicate with the users how they are supposed to use the tool. So it could be something like, this is how you add a new customer. This is how you qualify a lead. This is how you submit a proposal. Whatever those different processes are that people in the organization are doing within the tool that you built, they need to be documented in an SOP. Now, for this, I am going to recommend my favorite tool, which is called Guidde. There are several tools in the space that do something similar to this, but we're going to be breaking down Guidde and how we can implement it with a no-code deployment so that when we deploy this solution, people have SOPs at the ready. So for this, I'm going to use a real example of No Code Academy. This is actually our academy that we use to support and educate no-code builders. We offer free accounts, but also upgraded members as well, with a lot of different perks. I'm not going to go into all of the ins and outs of this tool, but what I want to show you is this is a live no-code tool, and I can use Guidde to record SOPs and share them with my team, and it's going to look like this. So here I am inside of my hourly consulting section. I am a non-logged in user. As you can see, it says I have to sign in if I actually want to book, but I can click around in here. I can go to one of the consultants, take a look, and I can get an outline of their experience as well as the different software that they love to consult in. So this is great. But inside our organization, we're adding new members to our hourly consulting team whenever we find new qualified people. So how might we go about doing this? We need to have a procedure for adding new people. And if I flip now into Airtable, you can see I have an interface built for me right here where I have all of the different consultants who are currently active on our team. And so let's actually add a new consultant, but we're not just going to do it in a vacuum. We're not just going to add a new consultant. When we add the consultant, if we just take one more step, we record our screen using Guidde, we can now create an SOP for this very process and easily share it with anyone else on our team. It doesn't take us any more time to do this with the exception of a couple of clicks. So here I am, I want to add someone new, and all I need to do, that one extra step, is start my browser. So I have here an extension in my browser for Guidde. It's already been installed in my Chrome browser, and all I have to do is click it and then say capture. And now I'm going to say, what am I capturing? I can choose either a how-to, or I can go with employee training or onboarding or whatever. We've got a lot of different options here. We'll stick with product how-tos. It'll be one of those things that we're using to address inside of our organization. And we can also then put a description here. So I'll have create a new consultant in NCA, which is No Code Academy. And I'm going to do this in English, and I'm going to say go. Now, I don't have to talk as the capture is happening. So now it's live, it's ready to go. All I have to do is go through the steps. So here I would click here and add a user. I'm going to have a test user. They'll be at test at Gap Consulting, if I can spell, .io. I could add the organization, it's optional. I can choose whether they're active or inactive. And if they're on the Gap team, which they are, and what their type is. So we're going to go ahead and create this new user. And just like that, you can see we have the new user. I can add specialties here. Boom, boom. Let's say they're in document, Airtable, and Smart Suite. Let's pick that. I could write their bio in here, test bio text. And I can upload their photo if I have one here. Now, all of this data lives in Airtable because I'm in an Airtable interface, but immediately it's going to be switched over into our actual portal. It's going to be active information. But let's make sure that we finish this recording. So I can come down here and I just say done, and that recording is going to wrap up. And then just to make sure that I've done everything correctly, I will flip into No Code Academy and actually refresh my page to confirm whether or not that new user is going to show up here. And you see right there, I now have test user just like that showing up inside of No Code Academy, because this is a portal that's pulling from that Airtable data with specific filters. And we can click into that new user and we're going to see their test bio and all of that. And of course, if we included a profile photo, it would be showing up here as well. So it's that simple. I've now created the SOP. I would have had to add this user regardless, so this didn't cost me any more time. But here's the last piece that I really want to stress for you is how to share this information with your team. So now we have this guide built, and right over here we can see the guide itself. It's just finished loading up. It's 1:22 minutes of the the capture of the SOP. You can see where we start here. It says, welcome to the guide on creating a new consultant in NCA. That's perfect. Here's the introduction. We can jump to this step in the video so people can read the breakdown that Guide has already created for us. Using AI, it's kind of broken down the different steps we took on our screen, but you can also see that it's highlighting the different parts on my screen that I selected. So it's saying first, I was on this interface page. I went up and I clicked the plus sign. I clicked on name. Now, of course, in some parts, I'm using example data when I capture the SOP. So you can now edit this information. I don't want it to say fill test user. Instead, I'll say fill in username. And I'll just copy this and I'll paste it down here as well. So it's really simple to make these updates on the fly, right? Once I've kind of browsed through this and made sure it looks good, then all I need to do is share it with my team. Now, I can do this really, really simply here by just exporting this link or sharing this link, and I can build an SOP library in my internal tooling. And so what I strongly recommend for any no-code builders is to build some sort of an interface for your team. You can have varying levels of permission that you share with your team members. Maybe people on specific teams see certain SOPs, for example. But all we have to do is copy the URL, as we've just done, here inside of Guide, and we can share that with anyone on our team. When they click that, let's open it up in an incog window here. I'll just paste that URL and we'll go right to it. This is what they see. They don't have to be logged into Guide. As you see, I'm not signed in. They can watch the video because the settings on my account have set it up so that anyone can view this video if they have the URL. So it's so simple to share this information with your team. And as I said, if you put it together in a nice little wiki, an internal wiki for your team, people can navigate so easily to your different SOPs. And now, my friend, you have an easily scalable business. I know we went pretty quick here, but I hope you see the importance of doing this. It's just a little bit of extra work, but it's going to help you actually get that adoption in your no-code solution. And that means people are going to actually use it and get more efficient in your organization. So I hope that you have a chance to check out Guide. Let me know what questions you have by dropping them below. Of course, like and subscribe if you haven't already, but most importantly, keep on building.